What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another movie review. My name is Big Cam, and today we are talking about 1993's A Bronx Tale from director Robert De Niro, also starring Robert De Niro. But I was curious, what other films has De Niro directed? Only one other movie called The Good Shepherd from 2006? Interesting. I would have thought he directed more. It seems that he's been a producer of quite a few films. Executive producer of 9 films. Acted in 209 films. That's a lot of damn films. Holy Christ. Now he's dipping his toe in. I heard he's got like a new television show or something where he's like a president. But either way, De Niro's an all-time great, an all-time legend, and this might be one of my favorite roles that he's in as Lorenzo the bus driver. And this movie's super interesting because Chazz Palminteri, who plays Sonny, is the original writer of this film and credited writer on this film, and De Niro's directing. And you know, Chazz had this film and was like, listen, I want to be Sonny. And De Niro's like, listen, if we go to anybody else, they're gonna make him be Sonny. But De Niro wanted to be Lorenzo the bus driver, so if De Niro directed, he would let Chazz be Sonny and he would get to play Lorenzo, and that's how it unfolded. And I think it's perfect. I think, you know, Chazz Palminteri as Sonny is so perfect. And I mean, like, you know, it's not so far off from him. Like, he definitely grew up knowing somebody exactly like Sonny. And you know, like, it's crazy for poor Calogero, or whatever his name is, C, young C, old C, played by Francis Capra. How old is he? Wow, he aged poorly. His face doesn't look any bit the same. How about the older version? Oof, tough look for the older version too. Handsome young men, not so much old men. Poor guy. But they were quite handsome and young in this movie, and you know, Lillo Brancato plays Calogero at age 17 instead of age 9. But I like that they have that little time jump in there. I love that he ends up falling for a black girl, and it's like not supposed to be happening in his neighborhood. Like, Italians are not supposed to be messing with blacks. And like, you know, his own father, Lorenzo, is like, listen, I think we're supposed to marry within our own, and Italians should marry Italians. And he's like, well, what if I wanted to date a black girl, Dad? Like, what the fuck? And he's like, listen, you would never do that. He's like, well, what if I did? And he's like, all right, well, you'll figure it out. Where Sonny was like, listen, you got 3 great loves in your life, you know, and that's all you get. And he goes, I had all 3 of mine when I was 16. That happens. What are you gonna do? And I you know, there's little lines and just teaching moments in this film between Lorenzo trying to teach his son and Sonny trying to teach his son that he never had. And the advice he's getting from both sides is good advice, but at the end of the day, it's still up to him to decide what is the right thing to do. And it's great because they show a scene where he gets, you know, his friends say, get in the car, and he gets stuffed in the back seat, and he's in the middle of the back seat, and there's no doors, there's no way he can get out without being a complete pussy and being like, guys, pull over, I'm scared, get out, right? Like, and he's having this dialogue in his head where he's like, I can't get out of this car, but I want nothing to do in here. They got Molotov cocktails, they got guns, they stolen car, right? Like, they're doing everything wrong. And even though C's a good kid, right? Like, and I think we all know some people in our lives that were good kids that just found their way into some situations that all of a sudden there was some bad kids doing bad things, and they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they shouldn't have been there, and bad stuff happens, you know. But luckily, Sonny pulls up and goes, "See, out of the car. All of you, stay away from this kid, out of the car." And then later that night, him and his buddies all die. And it's like, sorry for spoilers from a 1993 movie. It's, I mean, it's over 30 years old. This is on you. But it's such a good movie. If you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend. I rented it last night, or bought it last night on Amazon Prime. Such a classic. I'm glad I did, because this is a type of movie that every now and again I just go and put on just to remind myself of some good movies, and some movies that, you know, really touched the nerve with me growing up, and still to this day, you know, like the same parts I loved when I was younger watching this movie, watching last night, I loved the same parts, you know. Like, there's just now you can't leave. Nobody cares, right? Like, would you rather be feared or loved, right? Like, there's so many great lines and great writing in this movie. So shout out to Chazz, shout out to Robert De Niro. They did a great job, and the two of them just together really killed it. And, you know, Joe Pesci showing up at the end, right? Like, and tying it back into the beginning of the movie. You're like, oh, where? Oh, right. Like, that did happen at the beginning of the movie. And it's like, was it all over Poker Space? No. You never really find out when it was over, but I think it's a great movie. You know, it's shot interesting. You know, there's some parts where you're like, why does this feel so jarring? And, you know, first time director De Niro was like, nah, we're gonna get right up in this action and we're gonna feel it. The camera's gonna get beaten up by these guys. There's some shots that are like, could have been better, and there's some shots that are fucking awesome, and you're like, whoa, they couldn't have done that better. That was awesome. I mean, there's a shot of Chazz getting in his car at his house, which is only a couple blocks around the corner from his bar, and just putting it reverse, and not like backing out of the driveway, putting it in drive, and then driving over the shop. Just puts it in reverse and just turns around and backs up all the way, and you see where his house is, and he backs up all the way through the neighborhood while having a conversation with C and telling him what's good. And, you know, I always loved the cars. It's early 60s in this movie, and then they jump to the 68. So it's, you know, entirely set in the 60s. All the cars are such old 60s vehicles. They all look so cool and so good. And I've always wanted a convertible top Cadillac like he's got parked out front in most of these scenes. He's got a red one. There's a black one with white wall tires with red interior that's so sexy that I've wanted my entire life. And ironically, you know, my father passed a couple of years ago, and now I have this 71 Chevelle Malibu that's a red convertible top and black interior, and it's sexy as hell, and it reminds me of like cars like this, and just being an old school guy driving an old school whip. Like, it feels much more natural to me than, you know, this new shit. I don't know. I feel like when I was born, some mobster died and was reborn in me, because I have such an old soul in me. Like, even the music, the little doo-wop, doo-wop, ooh-wop, ooh, right? Like, throughout the entire movie, the score is like doo-wop songs and doo-wop groups standing on the corner just doo-wopping. That stuff sounds great to me compared to today's music. You know what I mean? Like, I love that shit. And was singing along last night. Doo up, boo up, boo. Fantastic. Overall, I gave this movie 4.5 out of 5 stars. About a 9 out of 10. You know, there's just little things, little filmmaking techniques that I would have been like, De Niro, maybe you back it up, make it nice, smooth, you know, but it's 93, they weren't, you know, really making films like that back then. This was edgy, gritty, dirty, raw, and it's all the better for it, you know. It doesn't necessarily need the improvements, but, you know, I feel like this movie today would be shot very differently, but also acted and portrayed very differently. Like, you can feel that they're really in New York, and he's really driving a bus, and, you know, like, there's some great things in this movie, and, you know, shout out to De Niro for starring and directing, because that couldn't have been easy, and shout out to Chazz for writing and starring, you know. So these two juggernauts and this young kid that you can see yourself in while you watch this movie, can't recommend it enough. Go check it out for yourself if you haven't. Drop your score out of 5 or 10 stars down below. What do you love about this movie? I would love to hear those type of things down in the comment section below. Or you can message me on my other social medias. Links for those down in the description. Big Cam, 2 G's in the Big, pretty much anywhere you can find me. Just look for this ugly face and you'll be alright. Thank you guys so much for coming on by. If you've made it this far and you'd like to support the channel, the best way to do that is by liking this video, commenting down in the comment section, hitting that bell so you don't miss future videos and you get the notification, sharing this video with a friend, and subscribing if you haven't already. Best ways to support the channel and get me into the algorithm and make this channel flow and grow the way it should, you know. But thank you guys so much for coming on by. My name is Big Cam, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace.